All right, I got Justin Mosley on the call with us today. Super excited to record a video here to learn about him and his company and maybe a little bit about your background and family as well. So thanks for joining us, Justin. Appreciate it.
Awesome, man. Happy to be here.
Yeah, so I got to know you a little bit through Raise Masters, one of the mastermind groups you and I are both a part of. It's been a great group of different people doing a lot of different things in real estate. You've been specializing in short-term rentals. But maybe before we get into the exactly what you do today, I'd love to learn a little bit more about your background in the Navy and how that kind of transpired and launched you into real estate.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, so I guess we all have our origin stories and take different
Yep.
paths to get here and stuff. But yeah, mine took me from the Navy, being deployed for pretty much almost 6 years overseas in Japan. So I was one of those fortunate ones that did a world cruise. So I know some people go to the military to actually travel and see absolutely nothing, or maybe Alabama, but just hang out there the whole time. But I was one of the guys that ended up starting off in Virginia, going all the way around the world to Yokosuka, Japan, and constantly going out all the time. So I saw a lot of the world, before I was probably 23 years old. So that very much kind of shaped me and informed kind of my views of the world and things like that. And once I got out of the military, I had, high hopes to be in a Navy SEAL, and that didn't shake out. So I was like, all right, well, it's time to go make some money. And, real estate ended up being that vessel that I chose to really go all in on.
Well, it's a good vessel to choose.
For
I'm
sure.
right
For
there
sure.
with you. Believe it or not, I don't know if you saw any of the clips of that last show I was on. I do some TV hosting on the side, but I hosted a
Nice.
show called Inside Mighty Machines, and one of the Mighty Machines that we were working on was actually an aircraft carrier, and I was out on a carrier, the USS Carl Vinson, for a week
Yeah.
out in the Pacific
Nice.
and working above deck and below deck, and it was awesome working with that sort of equipment and amazing people running that ship.
That is actually a surprise. I'm shocked that the Carl Vincent has not been decommissioned. So it was in the
Yeah.
fleet when I was in the fleet. It's funny because when I went to Japan, a part of the reason is the Kitty Hawk, which was the last conventional carrier in the fleet. All the rest now are nuclear, and I was on the George Washington, and we took its place. So I'm happy to hear that the Carl Vincent's still putting around. So that's good.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, well, for any of the business owners that are listening to this, or entrepreneurs, one thing that they'll find amazing, and I found astonishing, was, they have a crew anywhere from 3,500 to 5,000 people on the ship, and the average age was 21, 22 years old, and they had a 25% turnover annually. So, like all of us that are running businesses, right? I ran a business, I had 75 employees. Like if I had to deal with like 10% turnover was a major headache for me. Not to mention having 21, 22-year olds that were like the average age of the workforce, and to be at 25% turnover. I mean, I was amazed at what the Navy can pull off, and it really spoke to like the operations, the systems and procedures they have, and training to be able to do that. And this was obviously a nuclear powered aircraft carrier, 5,000 people with 25% turnover, and it ran really well. Not that the ship had issues, right? But as a system with all the people in place, like everyone had their job and they did it well, and that was amazing to witness.
For sure, for sure. And I think that is a testament to the military and especially the Navy when you talk about, standard operating procedures and stuff and how they're able to kind of create those and execute and really just slot people in. And
Yeah.
I tell a lot of my military guys all the time, it's like, when you have that kind of training, you understand that process. That's why I got into real estate. For me, it's, the blueprint is, following somebody that's done it before you. And really, you can get so much further than trying to bash your head against the wall and trying to recreate the wheel. So yeah, it's amazing.
I'm with you on there. One more quick story. I was also on the USS Teddy Roosevelt.
Okay.
Um, I'm part of the entrepreneurs organization, and I actually organized an overnight. It was like a 2-day overnight deal, where we actually flew out and had to land on the carrier and then did a launch off the carrier. So for a civilian, I've got some good experience
Yeah,
on aircraft carriers, man. It was really cool, and you can tell I'm a big U.S. guy, patriot, diehard military supporter. So super excited for your path and what you did, and thanks for sharing it all with us.
appreciate it.
So,
Absolutely.
maybe we can dive into it a little bit more on the real estate side, and talk. I know your specialty is short-term rentals. I
Mhm.
believe you're in South Florida. You even do some property management for your rentals. Maybe tell us a little bit more about what you're doing with Leicestermore Capital. And also I had a question like how did you come up with the name Leicestermore Capital, which I'm impressed that
Yeah,
you
yeah,
knew it.
yeah.
It is
Yeah,
Leicestermore,
yeah,
right?
for sure. You nailed it. And
Nailed
I
it.
tell people all the time, either it's the smartest thing I've ever done or the dumbest thing I've ever done. Leicester. So my wife is actually English, and so when we met in Tampa, and I was, out of college and working. We met the same business, and she had to go back. So she was there for like 5 years, and she was pretty much like, "Hey, don't get attached to me. I gotta go." I got attached. So when it was time for her to go, I said, "Hey, I'll quit my job and I'll go over to England." And the funny thing was, being a stupid American, I'm like, "Oh, it's super easy. I'll just go over there and work." And they were like, "No, no, no. It doesn't work that way. You have to actually be
Yeah.
sponsored." So luckily, I was in the military, so I had the GI Bill. So I ended up going to grad school over there, and it happened to be where she's from. So the place, it's kind of like a state, but it's called Leicestershire. So it was kind of cool. So once put systems in place and started my business, I took where I was from, Baltimore, and where she was from, Leicestershire, and put them together and got Leicestermore Capital and stuff. So
Oh,
it may have
cool.
been brighter to do Baltshire, but I don't ever have to worry about anybody stepping on my company's name. So you Google it, even something close to it, I come up. So I'm either a genius or a moron, one of the two, man.
Oh
So
my gosh. Yeah, funny enough, dude, my wife's from England also. And
oh really?
and
Didn't even know that.
yeah,
Nice.
yeah. And she was going back
Did you
and
spend any
forth for
time
a
over
while.
there?
No, only visiting. So she was out here most of the time, but I met her here in LA when she was out here like on a holiday visa, vacation visa. And she went back and
Holiday.
forth for
Yeah.
a little bit before finally moving to LA permanently. And so yeah, it's pretty cool. It's a very similar path. So I waited over here for her instead of going all the way out to England.
I'm
But
a handling kind
my
of guy, man. That's how I operate. So
yeah, no, I love it. I love it. My brother actually went to a London School of Economics. He got his
okay,
graduate degree
nice.
out there. So he lived there, but I never did. So interesting story. So what does Leicestermore Capital do now?
Yep. So we exclusively operate in the short-term rental space. So I have a brief history in kind of multifamily syndications. Still love the asset class, but one of the things I found that kind of a lot of operators know is that they're really great for building wealth, but not terribly great for cash flow. And I kind of pivoted into that because I thought there was a way to really kind of juice up from an operational standpoint. And you go back to your military example. I'm an operations guy, man. Like it's like I'm not creative at all, but like you're talking about putting systems and plans in place and executing. That is kind of my bread and butter, and that's how our company is built. So it just felt right, and it's almost part hospitality as much as it is real estate. So we're just trying to carve out our spot in this space and really make an impact in the short term rental game. So.
Yeah, I love it. So what's interesting is you're on the investment side with your own properties and maybe your own syndications, but then you
Mhm.
also do your own management as well, property management for you and for other like third party property management, right?
So we will do a little bit more. So right now we're just managing our own properties, but some of the newer properties we acquire, we do third party property management. We're in the path right now of really building something out to service all of our properties, but we're in full acquisition mode right now, and it's going really well. There's a lot of opportunities, so that's kind of taking a sidestep to really just kind of grow the portfolio.
Got it. And are you guys on your acquisition side, are you focused in South Florida or do you do other areas as well?
So we're in the southeast. So we just started going into the Mississippi market, Charleston, so South Carolina, North Carolina. Obviously, South Florida, we really like, Tampa, Cocoa Beach, things like that. So, a part of our strategy, we like to be kind of in a tourist destination, and we like to be near military installations as well. So, we have some really cool strategies that well, especially from an exit standpoint, that we're looking to deploy in the future.
Gotcha. Deploy. I like it.
It all ties back, right?
You're going back to your Navy verbiage,
For sure.
uh, but it's good to hear what's propelling you forward. Um, so a question on these other properties that you're doing, like outside of your immediate area, are you guys still doing your own property management for those as well, or do you hire other local guys to do it?
Yeah, so we hire third party. We have some groups that we really like, or if it's off the beaten path, because there really isn't a national property management company. I mean, you could maybe look at Big Casa and some of those guys, but even those guys aren't everywhere, right? So we like kind of the expertise of that market. I think that's where we can find the opportunity. You kind of really get that local perspective on what works and where you can add true value. So we like working with those kind of smaller guys that really understand the market.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I tell you, one of the things that I've done, which has helped, and I'm sure you've seen it, is I actually manage. I have one building that I manage nearby where I'm at, and most of my properties I'll have third party property management, but the fact that I manage one of them and I'm in it every day and I'm dealing with the different vendors and lease contracts and tenants and all that sort of stuff, I feel like it really like keeps my feet grounded, right? I know what's going
Yep.
on, so that when I'm managing other property managers, I feel like I have
Mhm.
a really good handle on what they're going through, and also making sure they're not pulling the wool over my eyes on certain things, right? Because that can happen as well. And it helps to have that property management experience. You see that as
Yeah.
well?
Oh, for sure, for sure. And I think any operator, or at least anyone that's getting into the space, particularly ones that, you want to grow a portfolio, you have to have some level of background in the property management. Like the operations of this, asset class industry space, it is paramount, right? Like this isn't just real estate. Like this is more, I would even argue it's probably 60% kind of operations, hospitality, and 40% real estate. Like you need to buy into great locations, have great economics and all the other things. But, if you're with the wrong property management company and you can't identify where they're starting to maybe turn or they're, not performing well, like you can take even a great property, down the drain real quick. So for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, I'll definitely can sink a property. Um, so I do mostly multifamily and self storage, but I did a fund, a short term rentals fund,
Mhm.
in St. Petersburg area. Near your neck of the woods. We bought in Gulfport, Dunedin, Clearwater Beach, and we got 7 properties out there. And one of the things that was pretty unique was we have my partner owns a property management company, and we converted like half of the property, like half of a given property we converted to long-term rentals, and the other half was short-term rentals. So
Mhm.
we found that we are able to kind of smooth out some of the cycles that you get from
Sure.
that's natural and short-term rentals, right? Like when it's booming, short-term rentals are doing really well, but a lot of times they do go through natural cycles, and your vacancies can be pretty high for a bit. So we converted half of those units to be long-term rentals, and it's worked out pretty well. And the only reason why we're able to do that is because we do the property management ourselves, right?
Yep.
Because typically it's a much different company to do long-term rentals versus short-term
Yep.
rentals. And so by us owning the property management company, we deal with kind of the inefficiencies, or a lot of times you'd be pointing fingers at each company, right? But we're one
Oh, for
company,
sure.
so we got to figure it out, right? And it's actually worked out pretty well. Have you guys ever converted any of your units to long-term rentals, or are you doing that now, or is it only 100% short-term rentals?
We're 100% short-term rental. So, I mean, we generally will underwrite our properties and we won't buy unless we can, worst case scenario, get a long-term renter in there. So that's a part of our kind of investment thesis. That's how we underwrite properties. But we haven't had to do that at all. So, we're rolling. We're all in on the
Yeah.
short term. But I think it is important to have that kind of exit just in case, something does happen.
Yeah, we always talk about having multiple plans, right? Or multiple
Sure.
exits is always good, so that you're not locked in on just one idea. Where do you see the short-term market going right now? Have you guys seen any of it softening or in certain pockets? What's it looking like for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, and, short-term rentals are hyper local, just like every other asset class, right? So I'm actually one of those guys that's super ecstatic about all the negative news, right? So all the Airbnb bust stuff and all the negative play. I think that's actually going to help the space in the long run, right? Like, one, I think regulation provides legitimacy to the space. Like, look at any kind of big business; everything's regulated. So, like, the idea that there are regulations coming down isn't necessarily a bad thing. And we look at every kind of opportunity or every challenge as an opportunity, right? So we have some strategies in certain markets where they're going to be implementing caps, and our goal is to build out a portfolio there, right? So then it's kind of a supply and demand play, right? Over time, demand will increase, but there's a cap on supply. So what does that do? Put upward pressure on ADRs and occupancies and things like that. So we just think we're just really trying to be creative, but we see massive opportunity. And one of the things we do believe in the next 5, maybe 10 years from now, that it will be recognized as its own asset class. So we truly expect private equity, institutional capital to start coming into the space. So, I mean, there's definitely chatter of Blackstone and guys like that are looking to buy massive amounts of properties, but really there aren't a whole lot of operators that have huge portfolios throughout the country. So we're trying to position ourselves to maybe an exit or take advantage of that in the future.
Yeah, so you see it's mostly a fragmented market right now of operators.
Yeah, no, 100%. I forget what the statistic is, but I know it's somewhere between like, about 85% of the market is mom and pop, like someone that owns less than 3 properties, right? Like you're not talking about super sophisticated investors. You're not talking about people that are really looking at operational efficiencies, looking at how to optimize the property. So to me, that just screams opportunity if you know where to look and take advantage of it.
Yeah. Yeah, we've been doing some of that on the in the self-storage space. It's
Yeah.
definitely, if you look at multifamily, it's probably 80% institutionalized already, whereas and 20% mom and pop. It's the exact opposite in self-storage, right? It's only about 15% institutionalized and 85% is all mom and pop. And you're right, the natural growth pattern for these REITs and these large players are to buy up conglomerates beneath them, and that's how they're growing.
Hmm.
And I see a lot of opportunity for that type of exit in the self-storage space. Not as much in the multifamily space, it's a much more a mature market, I'd say.
Yep.
But certainly
Yep.
self-storage and interesting to hear also in short-term rentals could be some really good opportunities on the exits. And if you can package these deals together, that's really valuable for these REITs, right? They'll pay
For sure.
pretty big multiples because guys like you and I have done all the work for them ahead of time, and
Yep.
and we get paid to do that work, right? We're putting these portfolios together, and if we can do a roll up and sell it as an entire portfolio, there's a lot of value there for these big
For
players, and they'll
sure.
pay for it.
For sure.
That's cool. And remind me again, you work with your wife in the business as well, right?
Yeah, so we started off, when early days, I always joke that like she was my VP of decor. So, I love getting out there, looking at the properties. I love underwriting them. I love trying to get them financed, raising capital on them. Well, initially started paying for them myself out of pocket, but she definitely worked very closely when we were first kind of figuring out like how to operate them at the very beginning. And, that's kind of where the short term rental millionaires blueprint was born, where we were like, there are people that want to get into the space. And really, it started off with veterans, right? I think a lot of guys get out of the military and maybe don't find their way in corporate America. And I wanted to provide a space where it's like, take the skills that you've learned in the military and start a business, be a real estate entrepreneur. And if you want to be in this space, like I will show you my blueprint of how I put these things together from finding a market to underwriting a property, like step by step. So you don't have to think, you just have to execute, right? And it was kind of born of that. So yeah, and my wife, she has an entrepreneurial background, and she has a group of high earning female entrepreneurs. So we kind of just blended together, and kind of its own, business was born out of that.
Cool. And what is the tell me a little bit more about the short-term rentals millionaires blueprint.
Yeah, so it's just a community of people that want to come in, and if you're looking to figure out how to break into this business, it's really a community for that. It's a lot of high achievers, people that are doing really well in their own space, but want to kind of figure out how they can grow a portfolio themselves. And what we did was we created a module course, right? It's a 10 module course, step by step on how you want to, acquire properties and do it yourself. And then we also offer coaching as well. If you need a little bit more hand holding, and really a lot of times it's just getting over the, fear of doing it and going out and taking action. And we, kind of provided that on the back end, because we saw it's not the technical knowledge a lot of times that holds people back. It's kind of what's up here, and that belief that they can go out and do it and really, achieve whatever it is that they want to accomplish.
Yeah. What have you found to be the biggest challenge in growing the business and dealing with short-term rentals? What's your biggest hurdle that either you've dealt with or are dealing with today?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. So I think it's the education curve, especially when you talk about bringing investors in. I think institutional guys, people that invest in, real estate in general, are super comfortable with multifamily. They understand it, especially when we're talking about kind of, building our fund. There's a huge learning curve of understanding, where there's a lot of uncertainty in where short-term rentals are going, how you can actually grow this as a business realistically. And then obviously with the news and, the negative stuff and STR regulations. So I think that's probably the biggest, challenge I see. But again, I'm all about kind of perspective and mindset. I find it as an opportunity. I think that's where I want to be, right? Where there's a lot of unknowns and you can kind of figure it out and, be kind of a trailblazer like that. That's the space I want to play in.
Yeah. So it sounds like that goes right along with your philosophy. I mean, with short-term rentals, it is in some regards, some areas like the wild, wild west, right? There's not a
It
lot of
is.
regulation yet. There is frankly some bad players that are just in it for the short term, short haul, and have cause problems. But then you get I guess smarter long-term players like you guys that are a lot take a much more like corporate approach to it and really try to figure things out. But without the regulation, like it's hard to kind of navigate that. So it sounds like maybe that blueprint can help shorten the learning curve for some of those
Oh, for
folks that
sure.
want to get in.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah, okay. So is your wife still pretty involved with the business?
On that side of it, she is. So she is. It's good to have her in there, and especially give her perspective on getting into real estate. And I think she really helps out with women in general. I know sometimes that they aren't, especially if they're relationships, because we're married, right? We do this together, and we started it together effectively. It's good to kind of get if you have a woman that wants to get in and that's already entrepreneurial and bring her husband in, it's good for them to kind of see me there and say, hey, this is something you guys could do together. But also give her perspective on why it's so valuable to invest your money and not just, it's great that you're making money in your business, but if you're not making it work for you, like, it's pointless, right? Like that could all go away, but you need other avenues to help you grow your wealth.
Yeah.
So I hope I answered your question there. I went around on a
No, no,
wagon.
it's good to hear her involvement. Part of the reason why I ask is I know you have four kids, and I'm just
Yeah.
curious, like how you guys balance, trying to be engaged and good parents, run a good successful business, but also have four kids. What does that look like for you guys? How do you manage that?
There is no balance, man. And anybody that says they can balance it, they're full of shit. And I'm here to tell you that. But you just have to pick your spots, man. Like we're really good about being present in the moment. So when it's time to be around family, and generally it's going to be an hour or two a day where it's just like focused on the kids and all that kind of stuff. We try to remain present and block everything out. But we're about teaching our kids that, you have to go out and earn in this world and make a path, and nobody's here to save you, right? Like you're lucky that you have parents that, can afford to give you things, but, we're not raising them in an environment in which like they can just kind of sit around and do nothing, right? So I'm a guy. I'm up at 4:30 every single day. I work out. I work hard. We were building a business. We like nice things. We like to go to nice places and stuff, and that requires a level of dedication, discipline that I'm trying to instill in my kids. So yeah, so it's fun. It's amazing. Like my kids are awesome. Like my oldest is 14. She's going to high school and dealing with all that kind of stuff that comes with it. And I have a 1 year old that is home with the nanny, and my two in between. It's crazy, right? So, but that's the beauty of life, and that's the beauty of real estate. That's why I love the space on it, man.
Yeah. Well, or it sounds like we kind of have similar ages there. My second oldest is 14. My youngest is one, with two
Yep.
in
Okay.
between. But then I do have an older one who's 17. So that's where my five fall in. I got four girls and a boy. And yeah, it's tough. And I agree with you. Like in terms of the balance, like it's almost it's it's what do you call it? It's not true, right?
Yeah.
It's a faux destination. You never really get there. But I agree 100% on the entitlement, right? Like you're trying to raise kids today that aren't entitled and making them work for things. So I actually spend a lot of time thinking about that and kind of making really conscious decisions on how to raise kids in this world, and without being entitled. That's a big deal for me. So glad to hear
For
you're
sure.
on the same path.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm on the
I
David
love it.
Goggins wagon, man. So I'm not as crazy, but like that kind of philosophy I can get behind and I believe in wholeheartedly.
Yeah. So you'll get a kick out of this. My daughters don't. But on the weekends, almost every day on the weekends, I play them the how do you say it? Revel song? What's Revel, reveal? Da 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 da
Oh
da
yeah,
da.
yeah. Yeah,
Every
yeah. Oh,
morning.
totally. Yeah, readily. Yeah,
Yeah,
readily.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, oh man, they get so pissed off. So I got Sonos. I got Sonos in the house, and I got a I got a good sized speaker in their bedroom. I get on my phone, and usually it's by 8 a.m. So it's not super early. Sometimes 9 if they're
Right.
up late, but 8 or 9. That song goes off Saturday, Sunday, and they hate it. The little ones love it. They've been up since 6 o'clock, and they say, "Okay, now it's time to
Yeah,
go to
right,
sleep."
right. They're already
Yeah,
out. Yeah,
they love
for
the
sure.
song. They march around the house and have a good time. But the older two daughters, they don't like it so much. But we got to get them up, get them working. So
Exactly. You got to keep it going, my friend. You're doing the right thing.
yeah, trying. So cool. Well, this has been good to learn a lot more about what you guys do. For the viewers that want to either get in touch with you or learn more about the short-term rentals millionaire blueprint, what's the best way to get in
Yep.
touch with you guys?
Yeah, I mean, really, the website is always good. So, LeicestermoreCapital.com, and it has everything there. Or you can hit me up on social media. So, Justin C. Mosley. I'm literally on everything from TikTok to LinkedIn to Instagram. So, yeah, that's the easiest way.
Cool. And they can get in touch with you at the website to get a hold of the blueprint or sign up for the blueprint.
Yep, they can.
Cool.
You
Yeah,
can just go to
I have a
education
feeling.
portion and go in and through the education tab, and there's everything in there. So our Facebook
Yeah,
group and the whole nine.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, I think you and I are on the same page in terms of investing time and money into mastermind groups to try to shorten the time frame to
For
get up to
sure.
speed on things. So anyone who's interested in short-term rentals, I encourage you to take a look at that for sure. And other than that, Justin, am I going to see you at the Raise Masters
In
retreat
New
in
Orleans?
October?
Yes, sir.
All
Yeah.
right.
I made a trip down to Mississippi. Just it's only an hour away from like past Christian where we're buying property. So I'll be there, my friend.
Awesome. All right. Well, yeah, super excited for that. Anyone who is in the capital raising space, I encourage you to take a look at Raise Masters. Justin and I are both a part of it. Great group. We're about
Yep.
450 strong right now, I think. So
Yeah,
looking
yeah.
forward
It's
to
the
it.
numbers continue to grow for sure.
Yeah, but yeah, check it out, raisemasters.com. And Justin, thanks so much for hopping on the show. Really appreciate it, bud.
Appreciate it, my friend.